Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to talk about another alien or extraterrestrial contactee, a Chris Bledsoe. Well, this is a very important case that's been going on for the last basically 20 years plus. And unlike other cases, such as the Billy Meyer case, which is another strange situation, a person who has no credibility whatsoever, has a horrible background as basically a hoodlum, French Foreign Legion, some sort of dog, the hunting down criminals. I mean, this guy's got an unbelievable. He was called the Phantom, etc. But I've talked about him, and I do have some new information on Billy Ma, the hillbilly Swiss German guy, who has produced zero physical evidence and can do zero. Now, that's all part of it. So he's come up with a lot of nonsense. We just have absolutely no idea what's going on there, but. There seems to be an awful lot of fraud there, but I'm going to bring on the new practical item that Myers has on his website. After 60 years of contacts with the Palookaloons. But this case is quite interesting because it's been going on for many years. But what's really interesting about these cases is not exactly what's going on, but I always look as a researcher into what's happening in the background. How are these things working? What goes on when these things become public, and how all of the realities are going there? Who is contacting them? Who investigated it? What's going on? And, I've said this many times as well. I always like to look at someone's history. It has nothing to do with any kind of prejudice to the person or whatever. But I always like to know, are they Mormons? Are they gay? Are they Catholics? Are they Muslims? What are they? What is their cultural background? Are they Jewish? Are they black? Are they Hispanic? Because, you are brought up in a society and you cannot get over the social pressure and the garbage teaching you get from your parents and your schools. And depending on where you grow up, you're going to have that entire ruling of your life. This is near impossible to get rid of. Now, I've been able to get rid of this through my Gnostic training. And the whole idea is you stop believing all that nonsense. You really have to come to, and not on an intellectual level. Well, no, I understand it, nothing. And they mouth back to you what you've said because that's how they were trained in the bogus school. They have no consciousness past that. So you get a lot of this. I used to have people that would say that, oh, yeah, where would I be in your organization when they mouth back? Well, mouthing back is not understanding. I have people that take my Great Path course and don't get it. They just don't understand the deeper things. They think they know some of this stuff, but they really don't. This is always a problem with people that you have to, if you're going to learn, you have to unlearn first. Was that what Yoda said? You need to unlearn what you've learned. So, and it's so true. And of course, this goes through any kind of deep training, etc., because this is not anything new. Certainly, Star Wars was not anything profound or different, as nothing else out there is. The only thing new and profound and different generally comes from me. Other than that, it's just a mouthing of old beliefs of synchronicity. Yeah, we need that, young. Yeah, we know where you came from. The asshole of sausage land. So the whole idea is that we have all the realities that go with that. Now, so this Chris Bledsoe certainly is a person, one of the few extraterrestrial people that can actually produce phenomena basically at will, apparently. And this brings up a whole bunch of things, but what he produces is that there's been a few people like this. The old PK man, he used to be able to, or when he did stuff, UFOs would tend to be seen in the area. A drunken, ignoramus bum like the PK man, who did absolutely nothing, threatened people with his emotional childish that Give me money or I'm going to bring a tornado in it. This is the kind of stuff. Died of cirrhosis of the liver, apparently. The ETs couldn't help him there. What? Um, so, I mean, a real bogus reality there. So, what are we supposed to make of all this stuff? And there's a lot of people that claim this, and they have, and there are a few people who have been actually able to produce. I think there was some guy in Las Vegas who did this 15, 20 years ago. I believe it was some kind of black guy, and he was able to call UFOs. Now, we have a few problems here, and I could spend hours and hours, and I think I will. I'm a little bored with, and I think everybody else is, with the scalar radionic technologies I'm talking about. And we have so much coming forward that there's not much more to talk about there, at least not that can be public quite yet. So there's a lot coming. And of course, we're going to try and highlight and teach people how to use our products better, which will go on YouTube as a way to get them out to people easily. But there's other issues out there. And of course, we're moving heavily into homeopathic healing, projecting these kind of energies, which are basically scalar type energies as well. So all that's coming. Get it ready. But let's talk about, UFOs are always fascinating. But what I've said is I'm not really interested in stories. Now, we have to understand that all this stuff is a waste of time. Listening to fantasies, how the pyramids are built. I just watched another guy, and they're just saying, this could never be built without computers. Underestimating the genius of human reality to begin with, but how were all these blocks moved? Well, if you think electromagnetic, which they're still thinking, it's interesting to listen to these researchers, and they have nothing to say but electromagnetic nonsense, which has never produced anything other than the crude. So if you think you're going to pick something up with electromagnetic energies, it's not going to happen. So they're still talking that way. They have no concept, and who cares? As usual, there's so many things under the pyramids that have never been allowed us to hear about. There's giant tunnels. Some people, there are places underneath there that are as giant locations you could build cities under, supposedly. And I tend to believe this to be true. So in all of this, and many of them have been discovered recently, and of course there is no publicizing it for whatever reason that is. Egypt should be turned into the Disneyland of North Africa, and they would be extremely wealthy. That everybody, they could have all the schools they want. They had to train archaeologists. But, one of the problems here is that being a Muslim country, they wanted to go into the museum and destroy all the Egyptian treasures not too long ago. And they are building new museums and everything else, but this is really a dollar thing. The problem is if you're going to have a bunch of psychotic maniacs that are going to push their will on the populace of a country, you're going to have problems. Look at the United States with the born-again Christians. They started their filth and disgust with Ronnie Reagan, the astrologer guy who never went to church except to steal money out of the basket, who tripled the national debt because his Reaganomics put the country almost in a depression. So to get out of that, he had to create a false enemy, the Soviet Union, and spend and tripled the national debt. He's the guy who did it. Mr. Conservative, mommy. So the whole idea is that all that stuff is something that has to be understood. So all of this doesn't mean anything. The existence of extraterrestrials, etc., which have been known, and what's interesting is what this guy says in the background, not what he's doing, etc., and what is this interesting phenomenon. So I look at this phenomenon as that, what is happening here with basically the orbs and fiery balls, that is seen all the time around him, whatever that means. And I'm not sure what any of this means in the bigger picture because they don't really do anything. And these extraterrestrials are not really helping anybody. And what he comes up with, again, is very crazy stuff that doesn't add up to him. But it's very interesting. I like to see how these people think, who approaches them, etc. So it's the usual story again of how he's connected by these people that basically forcibly abduct you without your permission, without talking to you, without approaching you properly, without doing anything. They just grab you. And that may be something you have to do. What do you do to somebody? Land your craft 100 yards from them and say, Hello, I would like to talk to you. But, and of course, they don't use voice either. So they're going to be communicating with you telepathically, um, so that you can understand everything. So it's going to be even more difficult. How do you do this? Certainly, though, every single alien contactee that I'm aware of, and all the people that study them, are stooges. And we only can also, if you hang around with stooges, it makes you a stooge. But the problem is that these extraterrestrials are the core of stooges. They are approaching the worst possible people they can. So, and they have absolutely no credibility. They're all brainwashed and anything else. And what's interesting in this case is that Chris Bledsoe stated that they did not want to contact official governmental people. And we can also understand that as well. Why deal with these scumbucket, murdering, corrupt people? But that also gets into a huge subject matter here. And as I said, it's probably going to go on for many different segments here as we go into each and every one of these. But it shows the lack of understanding of extraterrestrials in general. Why would the PK man, this delusional, drunken, violent person who couldn't figure out how to use, he had great powers, by the way, but he couldn't figure out how to make any money with it, which again doesn't make any sense. He did some healing, apparently, the PK man. But this faded out in his life. He was too busy. And of course, he was messing with able to move weather fronts and other things else, which there's a lot of very fascinating stuff around this guy. But as I said, if this guy is who they empower, we've got problems. But he couldn't figure out how to win the lottery. He couldn't figure out how to make slot machines pay off. He couldn't figure out how to make money at gambling in Vegas or anything else. So he couldn't do any of this stuff. And ultimately, his way of going into a trance would be to get to drink a lot of alcohol, which he did all the time anyway. Now, this, of course, works. The whole idea is to alter your consciousness. Alcohol is a great disinhibitor. So it disinhibits you, it lets down a lot of your guards, and you function better in small quantities. If you start drinking lots of it, you'd run into problems. But apparently, he had very serious, he died, from what we can tell, from liver failure from alcoholism. And there was some statements that at the time of his death that UFOs were seen over his house. So I'm not sure what that's about. I don't know why they didn't cure him. I don't know why they didn't produce a pot of gold for him. All of the things that always are questionable. And we have some of the same problems with this Chris guy. He's trying to make money as well. And of course, the government will use and abuse you, but apparently they will not have ways of you making money. Of course, finally they did with this guy 20 or 30 years later because he has a book out. And we'll talk about the book in another video. Which has been sold to the motion pictures, apparently. He probably got paid quite a bit of money for this. I don't know. Depends. He's not a very smart man, even though he was a businessman, but I'm not sure how much they paid him for use of his book or not. But this will become, I think it's a motion picture, not a TV or cable movie. So if he got a percentage of it, which he probably didn't, he could be quite wealthy from this. And of course, they pay a lot of money, millions of dollars they'll pay for a book like this, and they certainly should. There's plenty of that money out there in the motion picture industry. It just depends whether you're smart enough to get it. And you don't do it free like